Hey guys, I just want to give you my review of DC's Legends of Tomorrow, Season 1, Episode 8, Night of the Hawk. The episode starts off in 1958. There's these kids that are street racing, middle of the night. One of their cars, one of their tires blows out and goes off the road, and they end up fighting. And and that couple finds a glowing meteorite. The other couple in the other car comes to their aid, and it turns out Savage has been drawn to that meteor as well, and those are the kids who actually gone missing and reported in that small Oregon town, which is how Rip is able to identify. It helps Rip identify that Savage in that particular town when the wave rider arrives, and so he and Snar go undercover as FBI agents to look at the forensic files from the local police station. Jax is sent to go talk to the girlfriend of one of the missing teenagers, and Sarah and Dr. Stein go undercover as like a doctor and nurse working at an insane asylum for clues. And also Ray and Kendra pose as a married couple just moving into the neighborhood. And naturally, since it's the 1950s and 1950s suburbia, they naturally have to deal with the not so subtle racism during that time, with the realtor telling them to go look for another place that's more forward thinking, and everybody assuming that every time Ray shows up with Kendra, that Kendra is just his maid, and basically promptly telling them to go shove it. And of course, Dax has to deal with being beat up by a local cop and, these 1950s, teenagers when he strikes up a romance with the woman, and I think he even calls one of them Biff, just as a Back to the Future shout out. And there's another Back to the Future shout out from Ray, where he asks if he's going to the Under the Sea dance when they're going to go on a date with that same woman. And also, I guess the thing is that that's the romance where it just feels like feels like the most sudden. Because then it's 1 minute they're making out in the car, and then by the end of the episode, when the boyfriends return, that she gets back together with him. So weird. But however, Sarah does strike up an attraction with another nurse working at the insane asylum. Sarah senses that she's a lesbian, and when they kiss for the first time, and the ironic thing is that Sarah's the one who tells her to not feel ashamed of it, and be ashamed of her sexuality. But the ironic thing is that when they kiss for the first time, she gets taken aback and she runs off and becomes distant, and she finds in Dr. Stein it's because of the fact that she feels like it makes her become reconnected with her emotions and not worried about the fear that she might hurt somebody. And also, Stein warns her that she shouldn't try to even attempt it, just because of the fact that it's the 1950s. There's not a lot of openly, everybody's, anybody in the gay community is closeted, and now it's going to be more difficult for her because the nurse has met somebody like Sarah, and then she has to take off and leave. And the other thing is that there's something. Sarah does discover something going on in Hall H, which is where Savage is experimenting on others, and That's where he's keeping. Apparently, he's been taking some liquid from the meteorite and it's been turning the missing teenagers into this like monsters like hawk people. Um, and and also the side story. It turns out Savage is also he's working under the alias of Dr. Curtis Knox, which is a Smallville Easter egg because Dean Cain played a character on season 7 of Smallville who was an immortal, and he basically was Dean Cain basically was playing Vandal Savage, but they couldn't call him Vandal Savage for some reason, just because of one of those DC embargoes at the time. I think, I'm not sure, but anyway, there's a nice little nod to that. And he's also like married and living. Turns out to be living next door to Ray and Kendra, and he has a wife, and they bring over like a tuna casserole and invite them over to a mixer at Savage's house. And at first he acts like he doesn't recognize Kendra, but then it becomes apparent that he does when he starts asking her, does he believe in past lives? And Ray finds like a conspicuously, steel door with a lock on it, and he's able to use the Atom suit to sneak in the next day and find the dagger that Kendra needs to use to kill Savage, and was able to get it out of the house. But the thing is that what happens is that Jax and the woman get attacked by one of the Hawk people, and the woman's throat gets slashed, and Jax tries to take her to the Wave Rider to get healed, but they're pulled over by a cop who knocks him unconscious and brings him to Vandal Savage and turns him into one of the Hawk people. But Rip is able to find the car and the woman, and she's still alive, and basically, nurse her back to health, and they're able to track down, and they all decide to, and Kendra decides to go in alone to try to kill Vandal Savage and meet them at the insane asylum while they try to go rescue Jax, and everybody else try to go rescue Jax and the Hawk people. And Rip and Snart get into these fights with the mutated Hawk people, and including Jax himself, who's been mutated into one. And they both try to reason with Jax. Snart doesn't want to kill him, and kill him, and eventually leads to Sarah having to intervene and knock Jax unconscious. Kendra tries to kill Savage, but he already knew that the knife was missing and was able to grab the knife out of her purse. But then Ray comes to save her at the last minute and uses his gauntlet from his suit to blast Savage out of the window, and they grab Jax and bring them back to the Wave Rider and are able to use some gene therapy to bring him back to normal. Stein goes back to the insane asylum and cures the rest of the mutated Hawk people. And Sarah vaguely explains that, but she doesn't go into details, but saying she's basically a ninja and that she has to go, and she hopes to see the nurse sometime in the future. And this is about everybody's. And Jax says, apologizes to Snart for making a comment about how if he's so willing to kill Mick, then what's to stop him from, killing the rest of the team? Which is what I don't know why he was so bothered by that, because he seemed like he just forgot about the fact that Mick had turned on them in the last episode, so and was going to sell them out to time pirates. So I thought that was kind of silly. And then of course Chrono shows up again, which just feels like he's just really just a plot. He's really just like a plot device, to be honest. Just to cause further conflict and leave the team either stranded somewhere or in a time period, and And basically it leads to, because they're attacking the Wave Rider, and it's like Rip tells everybody who's on board at the time to get to the jump ship. I guess Kronos hijacks the Wave Rider, and it starts to take off, and it leaves Ray, Kendra, and Sarah behind. So overall, I give the episode, like an 8. I think like a 6.7 out of 10, just because of like the stuff I mentioned before, as well as the fact that the Savage's wife being there is like, I don't know what purpose she was supposed to serve, really. Yeah, I don't know. It just kind of a useless character. But although it's interesting that this whole premise seems to have an even bigger payoff for the preview they have for the next episode, which is not going to be back until March 31st.
Hey! Where did you go? I'm not coming back.
2 years, stranded in 1958. We're free floating through time.
What the hell is going on?
We're not leaving our team. We'll die trying. Sorry, we're late.
DC's Legends of Tomorrow returns Thursday, March 31st on the CW.
Okay, that just seems like a major, just like facepalm moment. Just Sarah going back to the League of Assassins, just because there's no doubt it's going to seal her fate, and why she gets recruited in the future by Roz, and so she's basically setting up her own fall to become this jaded, emotionally tortured character that she sees herself as, or she has kind of become. I don't know, it's almost like, I don't know, I guess you can look at it as being like this, almost like a junkie, like a junkie for violence in a sense. I guess it was the whole junkie for violence in a sense. I don't know. I kind of liken it to, kind of being an alcoholic, or just kind of being this junkie for violence is kind of this self-destructive cycle, or I'm not explaining this well, but I hope you know what I'm talking about. It'll be interesting because you would think that she would try to run off with the nurse that she met earlier in the episode and get together with her, but I guess because it's the 1950s, it's like they can't really have a life together because there's not a lot of openly gay people, presumably in the 1950s, and she doesn't want to affect the time. She's worried about affecting the timeline or something, but I don't know. Anyway, what do you guys think of the episode? What do you guys think of the preview? Leave your thoughts in the comments down below. If you like this video, like, share, and subscribe, and I will talk to you guys soon. Take care.